Here in the fall, I'm going to be going to UNCG, the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, where I'm going to be getting my master's in film and TV production, and I also have a teaching assistantship there. So my hope is to eventually be a professor of film while also making films on the side, kind of. I think the most epic moment for me was a film that I was really looking forward to seeing, because it was by a Scandinavian, or it was by a Norwegian director, and so I actually got tickets to go see it at like 2 in the afternoon. I had to wait list it actually. I had to wait in a big long line, and I was worried I wasn't going to get in. But I ended up getting in, and afterwards I got to go and meet the director. Just kind of walked up and pushed my way through, and I got to go meet her. And so I like shook her hand, and I talked to her just for like a couple minutes, and I got really excited. I think that was the first time I was like really starstruck, even though she's not it was like the first thing she's ever directed. I think that the most important lesson I learned at Sundance, which we're taught a lot in our studies, that a lot of filmmaking is about networking. Like, you have to know people and you have to make relationships with people. But I think that was even more, like, that was probably the biggest lesson I got from Sundance and the whole experience, was because you're there and you meet people. They actually have gatherings for filmmakers and producers and distributors to come together and meet with each other. We actually met a couple girls who work those events, who like were working the events, and so it's like they just put you at a table, and sometimes, you know, they'll have little name tags saying who everyone is, and it's just like a good opportunity to meet people. And you're just on the bus, and like I met someone from the Toronto Film Festival on the bus. He actually goes and finds films at Sundance to then premiere at Toronto, to ask them to show theirs at Toronto. But he wouldn't leak anything, like he wouldn't say which ones he was interested in. But that was pretty exciting to meet these people and kind of get my name out there and just talk to them. And so I think networking was the biggest lesson. Like, I know it's said a lot that networking is important, but it really was ingrained. And I think if you're interested in going, you should just go for it and go, because it's definitely an experience that you will never forget. So I know we had one person who did some crowdfunding online. He did like a Indiegogo account and made some money that way. We had a bunch of people who did just some fundraising on their own. But I think that that's the biggest thing, is just go for it. Don't be afraid. If you don't know anybody there, don't be afraid that you don't have the money, because there's ways to get around that, and you'll meet new friends when you go, because there was a class component to the trip as well. There was about 2 weeks before that we were doing work. We were doing not really discussion posts, but more like blog posts, all up until 2 weeks until the actual day we left. And then there was a lot of reading we had to do. We had like 2 or 3 textbooks that we had to read. We were watching about 3 films a week. It was really nice how they kind of integrated in kind of the coursework with what we were going to be experiencing at Sundance. And we just kind of learned about the history of Sundance, as well as the history of the independent film market, because Sundance is pretty much the festival to go to if you're an independent filmmaker. They were doing a press conference the first day of the festival, and we had nothing else to do, so we thought that we would either try to get into the press conference or at least stand outside and kind of do some star watching. We weren't able to get in, unfortunately, but a couple of us kind of stayed around for a couple hours, and we were able to see Robert Redford come out the back door. And we were there with other paparazzi too, so we kind of got the paparazzi. We got to talk with them and kind of get behind the scenes on how they work. A couple of them even kind of, I guess, offered us jobs if we got good pictures. So yeah, one of our fellow students got a couple good pictures of Robert Redford, and he ended up selling them to them for quite a bit of money, and that helped kind of offset the cost for his trip. But the rest of us didn't quite get as lucky as him. Either we didn't have as good enough cameras, or we just didn't have as good enough shots. So, but yeah, that was almost the first thing that we pretty much did at Sundance. You really just have to go and experience it. Like, it's really hard to communicate how great it is afterwards. There's only a limited vocabulary that you have to kind of say how great of an experience it was. So you really just have to go and see it to really believe it. And